Communication and Information Technology. Selamat pagi Pak Joshua. We also have Bapak Firly Ganenduto as the Deputy Secretary to Indonesia Fintech Association (AFTEC). Pagi Pak Firly. We also have Mr. Ruben Lim as the Chief Operating Officer of Singapore Fintech Association. Good morning, Mr. Ruben Lim. And last but definitely not the least, we have Mr. Jack Siddiq as the Senior Country Officer of Indonesia and Timor-Leste International Finance Corporation, and he will also lead today's discussion as our moderator. Good morning, Mr. Jack Siddiq. Ladies and gentlemen, now without further ado, we will commence the breakout session. And as our moderator today, we will welcome the Senior Country Officer of Indonesia and Timor-Leste International Finance Corporation to lead the discussion. And to Mr. Jack Siddiq, you may take the floor.
Selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. Selamat pagi. Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Oke, kita akan mulai sekarang. Since we are mixed bahasan in English, sorry Mr. Ruben, I try to use as much English as I can, right? But it will be mixed with bahasa as well. So the breakout session today is regulation on personal data protections and impact and implementation on financial services sectors. Kita mulai saja, saya panggil satu persatu pembicara kita pagi ini. Pertama saya panggil Pak Dino Milano Siregar, silakan Pak. Tepuk tangan. Kedua saya panggil juga Pak Joshua Sitompul dari Coordinator of Law and Cooperation, Director General of Informatics and Application. Kemudian Pak Firly Ganenduto, silakan Pak Firly. Ini pakai bahasa Inggris. Last but not least Pak Ruben. Thank you. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Welcome, and we thank your time to contribute to this discussion this morning. So to begin, I'll hand over the mic to Pak Dino to provide his opening remarks. Thank you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Hari ini kita akan mencoba breakout session terkait dengan perlindungan data pribadi. Angle-nya ada beberapa angle, ada dari sisi industri, ada dari sisi regulator, ada di sisi Kominfo selaku regulator juga, dan kemudian kita melihat pandangan dari sisi asosiasi. Dalam hal ini kita mengundang asosiasi dari Singapura, Mr. Ruben, untuk kemudian bisa mendapatkan gambaran secara utuh terkait dengan perlindungan data pribadi dan penerapannya untuk Indonesia. Mungkin kita bisa belajar sesuatu dari Singapura atau mungkin juga dari pengalaman industri dan para regulator. Mungkin itu pembukaan dari saya, silakan.
Terima kasih Pak Dino. Mungkin Pak Joshua ada kata-kata sambutan.
Baik, selamat pagi, good morning, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ini satu kesempatan yang sangat berharga juga untuk kita gunakan. Ketika kita bicara satu regulasi yang baru, satu arah kebijakan yang baru, satu tujuan yang akan dicapai, dan itu adalah hal yang baru, dan tentunya akan banyak mengundang pertanyaan. Ada banyak hal yang mungkin kita tidak mengerti saat ini, tapi itu perlu untuk ditanyakan dan juga di-raise, sehingga sebanyak mungkin stakeholders bisa aware mengenai isu atau permasalahan tersebut, dan kita bisa mencari pemahaman atau konsensus. Kalau tidak, kita bisa mencari arah yang mungkin bisa diterima oleh banyak pihak. Terima kasih.
Pak Joshua, mungkin dari Pak Firly sebagai praktisi mungkin ada opening remarks.
Thank you Pak Jack. Yang saya hormati Pak Dino, kemudian Pak Joshua Ruben, my fellow speaker. Selamat pagi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I was invited. Thanks for the invitations for me to speak regarding to the new law, which is the data privacy protection. I think this law is the long-awaited law that we are been waiting for. Jadi prosesnya itu udah panjang ya, nanti mungkin Pak Joshua bisa menjelaskan ya. Jadi udah hampir 5 tahun yang terinfo ke saya. Dan ini adalah one of the last infrastructure that we need to have in order to support the digital industry. Karena because what Indonesia is one of the biggest, one of the big market, right, for digital space, and since the pandemic, we are growing so much, right, and that accelerates the growing of the industry, and as the industry growing, one of the big issues is the data protection. Data privacy protection, obviously, and because of these regulations now, we have a certainty of how, you know, and then we have the certainty of the regulations, plus that will give the customers the you know peace of mind on you know how their data being protected, and now we have regulations. So the industry need to pay attention in details on how they're maintaining the data, right? So this is very important, and I think it's you know very good development in terms of the industry. The key you know the key message here is that the next thing that we need to do is, because the regulations, the undang-undang is actually from the high level, Pak. And what we have to, you know, what we have to follow is the turunannya, yaitu melalui PP dan lain sebagainya. Karena ada there is one important thing in the regulations is that there is a new authority, there is new lembaga that will control and authorize the data privacy. This is very important, and the government being you know assigned in 6 months to create this lembaga. So I think this is another milestone that we have to monitor to make sure that this you know the authority, the authority body is independent and supporting the industry. The two things that we have to make sure, because our regulations is mirroring the GDPR, and as you will understand that the GDPR has ICO. ICO is independent and you know elected by the industry, so there is an industry element of it. But here the authority body will be selected by the President of the Republic of Indonesia. So the government will select the organization, the chief of this new body. So this is the thing that I want to you know start off. Maybe we can start discussing on that particular point. Thanks, Pak.
Terima kasih Pak Firly. I think that's a very good summary of the discussions this morning. Mungkin perhaps from Ruben, can give some insights as from the Singapore FinTech Association, how you see things developing in Indonesia.
Sure. Hi everyone. Good morning. So, mic test 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think it's okay. Right. Hi guys. Hi everyone. Thank you for having me here. I believe I have a short deck later on to present, but for now, I hope that I can take this chance to share with you a bit about what we are doing in Singapore, and also maybe a bit of insight into data on Web3. Because I think when it comes to Web 3.0, it is really about you owning your own data rights and how you can actually commercialize it. But let me leave it as that. Thank you.
Okay, maybe we start the discussion with the first discussion point, which is challenges for implementing personal data protection and regulation. I think Pak Firly already touched upon the issues of the establishment of this new regulator. It needs to be independent, but since we have the experts here with us this morning, I would like to get the opinion of Pak Ruben and Pak Dino and Pak Firly on whether or not the law will have a positive impact on the industry, the fintech industry, or would the law restrict its growth, right? And basically, I think overall, how the law will impact the growth of the trajectory of the fintech industry. Maybe first I'm going to give to Pak Dino. Silakan Pak.
Ya, apakah undang-undang itu bisa menciptakan iklim bisnis di Indonesia atau membantu pertumbuhan gitu ya? Ini cukup menarik. Undang-undang PDP ini ditunggu sudah cukup lama, ya. Tapi memang akhirnya keluar dengan berbagai angle view, gitu. Tapi seperti yang tadi disampaikan oleh Mas Firly, bahwasanya ada hal yang memang masih ditunggu lagi nih kelengkapannya, gitu, terkait dengan peraturan pemerintahnya, sehingga jelas, lengkap untuk bisa dipahami oleh semua pihak. Ya, kalau misalnya kita melihat undang-undang PDP dari sisi positif, gitu, di Indonesia dengan kondisi COVID kemarin, dengan tumbuhnya berbagai industri digital, IKD bertumbuhan, berbagai klaster muncul, yang dihandle OJK saja itu ada sekitar 17 klaster yang sudah rilis gitu ya. Nah, ini justru kita melihat adanya peningkatan engagement masyarakat kepada fintech ini. Jadi kemudian UMKM juga bertumbuh 67,1%, luar biasa gitu. Jadi kalau kita melihat undang-undang PDP ini justru nantinya akan memberikan keamanan dan kenyamanan nih kepada masyarakat untuk engage kepada institusi yang sudah berizin, yang notabene bahwasanya regulator pasti akan melihat industrinya dari sisi penerapan undang-undang PDP, dan dari sisi masyarakatnya sendiri dia akan merasa nyaman dan kemudian dia akan melihat peluang lain dalam melakukan transaksi dan akan melakukan transaksi lebih. At the end, semua transaksinya ini akan terus bertumbuh. Gitu. Ini yang kita lihat, walaupun kita melihat bahwasanya masih ada hal-hal yang harus disempurnakan dari undang-undang PDP ini. Sementara itu, terima kasih.
Mungkin kita minta pendapat pertama dari Pak Ruben, opinion from Pak Ruben on this particular topic. Dan Pak Firly, then we will, I think that we have set up the topic well for the audience, then we can go to the presentations one by one. Okay, go ahead, Pak Ruben.
So data is the new gold, new oil. And that has to do with got to do with the development of technology where you have artificial intelligence. You see, because if you look at AI system, data is the one that fuels AI. And if not, you will not get good insight. So data governance is becoming very, very important. And we are seeing that it's not just a trend, it's a global thing that everyone is now taking care of your own information. And those information, when you look at data, it becomes very pervasive, it becomes very intrusive, because it's not just only about your name, it's not just only about who you are, your identity, but it's about your living habits. It's about where you go from point to point, where you spend your money, what are you clicking on social media. So private data in this it seeps into your daily life. And as a result, there is value in those data, and then it feeds on those AI systems, it come up with a lot more insight. So as a result, this is something that definitely is very, very important. And on top of that, how will it affect fintech? It will then increase the level of compliance. It will then increase the level of cybersecurity, because there'll be a lot more hacks. So it will not just only be a regulation perspective, but it will be something that you need to see from a whole ecosystem. So the whole back-end infrastructure, so on top of the law, how is your infrastructure able to support? And on top of that, what are the the toolkit you have available to protect it? Because it's one thing to have the law, it's another thing to execute to make sure that you comply.
If Pak Firly have any additional points.
Yeah, sure. I think Ruben already mentioned it all from the industry side of it, right? I just like to say this from the analogically, right? So this is like imagine that you have 10 cars, right, in open space, right? And then you try to move from point A and to B, right? Without nothing, it's open, right? Imagine that it's open and 100 cars. So you will have a lot of collisions, I can guarantee you, because nobody pulling the road. But imagine this, regulation put in place, you put the road there, you put the traffic lights in the middle, and then you put the slow down sign and everything. That is the regulations. And make us confident, and then make sure that all the driver are licensed, they are old enough and being able, they have the ability to drive and all. So, they will give us some confidence to drive, right? And then safety also. This is regulations, and this is what PDP regulation is. So I think that's it all.
Okay. Any addition from Pak Joshua? Okay. I think that we established the importance of, and the potential impact of this regulation. We can now jump into the presentation by each participant. I'll invite Pak Dino to start.
Can you show the slide? There's no slide here. Should I look like this? Oke, ya, thank you. Saya akan coba melihat perlindungan data pribadi dengan angle view-nya dari OJK selaku regulator di sektor keuangan. Next, please. Ya, Undang-Undang Perlindungan Data Pribadi nomor 27 tahun 2022. Itu ada beberapa landasan yang kita lihat, ya, ada landasan juridisnya, ada landasan sosiologisnya juga, kemudian landasan filosofisnya. Kemudian kita melihat bahwasanya secara keseluruhan ini adalah suatu undang-undang yang menjamin hak dari warga negara atas perlindungan pribadi. Dasarnya apa? Dasarnya adalah Undang-Undang Dasar 45 pasal 28G. Ya. Nah, karena dijamin oleh undang-undang, maka ini harusnya memberikan keamanan, kenyamanan buat masyarakat untuk melakukan suatu kegiatan atau transaksi menggunakan data pribadinya kepada pihak-pihak di luar dari dirinya, seperti kepada perusahaan atau kepada orang, baik secara publik maupun kepada perorangan lainnya. Dan dengan adanya peraturan ini, maka masyarakat juga akan merasa lebih terjamin jika ada kebocoran data, maka akan bisa ditelusuri siapa yang bertanggung jawab atas kebocoran data ini. Ini yang memberikan kenyamanan kepada masyarakat. Next. Saya go through singkat saja terkait dengan inti apa angle yang dari regulasi. Terkait dengan data pribadi. Data pribadi ini saya melihat secara konsaisnya adalah masalah konsen, persetujuan. Bentuknya bisa tertulis, bisa bentuknya terekam, bisa bentuknya elektronik, atau bisa juga yang manual. Nah, ini yang perlu dipahami oleh orang per orang sebagai pemilik data pribadi. Dari sisi pengendalian data, pengendali data pribadi, yang menjadi concern mereka sama dengan para pemroses data. Pemroses data dan pengendali data itu bisa menjadi satu pihak atau bisa menjadi dua pihak yang berbeda. Tapi concernnya tetap sama, concernnya tetap sama adalah masalah penyimpanan, masalah transfer, masalah penghapusan, masalah pemusnahan data. Ini akan menjadi concern dan menjadi kewajiban dari para pengendali dan pemroses data. Ini yang kita lihat dari regulasi-regulasi yang telah dikeluarkan oleh OJK yang berdampak kepada industri maupun kepada masyarakat. Next. Ya, highlight untuk undang-undang perlindungan data pribadi. Bahasanya kita agak berbeda nih. Perlindungan. Kebiasaan kita perlindungan, tapi ternyata pelindungan, bahasa sesuai dengan KBBI. Ya, concern yang pertama adalah terkait dengan kategorisasi data. Data pribadi itu terbagi dua. Ada data yang umum dan data spesifik. Data umum itu lebih kepada nama, alamat, tempat tinggal, lahir, dan lain-lainnya, seperti mungkin sebagian yang bisa kita lihat ada elemen data yang ada di KTP-nya kita. Itu data umum. Nah, data spesifik ini adalah terkait dengan kesehatan kita. Data kesehatan kita itu merupakan suatu rahasia pribadi yang tidak boleh diketahui oleh orang lain. Even keluarga jauh ya, tapi kalau istrinya mungkin boleh sama anaknya. Ya. Dan kemudian masalah disability. Ini juga menjadi suatu kerahasiaan. Kemudian biometrics, DNA, itu juga merupakan suatu kerahasiaan data pribadi secara spesifik. Ini yang perlu kita pahami terkait dengan undang-undang ini. Nah, kemudian ada lagi hak-hak subjek data, hak-hak pribadi seperti apa gitu kan. Nah, masyarakat ini perlu tahu apa yang menjadi haknya dan apa yang kemudian dia harus lakukan jika dia melakukan suatu transaksi atau hubungan kontrak dengan pihak lain di luar dirinya, baik itu perorangan maupun publik. Dia harus memberikan konsen. Setiap kali dia melakukan transaksi atau melakukan hubungan, itu dia harus melakukan konsen, sehingga datanya itu bisa mendapatkan validitas data dan bisa diotorisasi. Dan kemudian ada lagi dari sisi pengendali data, orang yang menerima data yang diberikan oleh si subjek data. Jadi bentuknya bisa orang, bisa badan publik, bisa organisasi gitu ya. Nah, itu juga akan nanti harus menentukan apa tujuan dari pemberian data kepada pengendali. Prosesnya seperti apa, hak dan kewajibannya seperti apa, itu harus clear. Sehingga kita bisa mengamankan data pribadi kita. Nah, ini tadi salah satu yang tadi disampaikan Pak Firly nih. Ini kita terkait dengan lembaga pelindungan. Nanti ini harus dikeluarkan dalam bentuk Perpres. Perpres Pak, Joshua ya? Betul ya? Oke, Perpres. Nah, ini nanti akan menjadi suatu aturan lanjutan atau aturan pelaksanaan lah dari Undang-Undang PDP ini sendiri. Ada hal-hal yang mungkin dari level undang-undang tidak bisa diselesaikan, tapi mungkin nanti berdasarkan Perpres ini akan bisa diinformasikan secara lebih detail. Karena apa? Akan ada di sana permasalahan-permasalahan terkait dengan cross-cutting issue antara industri, gitu ya, antara kementerian atau lembaga. Tapi nanti dengan adanya Perpres kita harapkan semua ini akan lebih clear keluarnya kepada masyarakat. Oke, itu adalah 4 highlight point untuk pelindungan data pribadi. Next. Ya, ini seperti yang tadi saya sampaikan. Dengan adanya pengguna internet di Indonesia, pertumbuhannya sangat masif tuh. Dari bar yang paling rendah sampai dengan bar yang paling tinggi. Jumlahnya itu adalah sekitar 210 juta jiwa dari populasinya Indonesia, atau 77% yang sudah engage dengan internet. Maka penggunaan data digitalisasi dalam masa COVID terutama yang sangat boom pertumbuhannya juga mendorong kepada industri-industri untuk tumbuh. Seperti kita lihat itu gambar di sebelah kanan atas, itu adalah para pelaku industri di bidang teknologi dan digitalisasi. Sangat banyak bertumbuhan. Sehingga kita membutuhkan suatu regulasi yang benar-benar kuat dan komprehensif yang bisa melakukan perlindungan terhadap data pribadi yang mumpuni, yang cukup memadai saya pikir. Ini yang kita sambut dengan gembira dengan launchingnya Undang-Undang Nomor 27 ini. Namun kita masih mengharapkan teman-teman dari Kominfo nanti akan bisa membantu kita lagi terkait dengan aturan lanjutannya yang berkaitan dengan Perpres. Next. Ya, jadi dari semua yang inti dari Undang-Undang PDP ini, kita sudah komunikasi dengan industri, kita juga dapat masukan dari masyarakat, dan kemudian kita juga bicara dengan regulator lain. Intinya di mana? Intinya adalah bukan infrastrukturnya yang kita khawatirkan, bukan regulasinya yang kita khawatirkan. Yang kita khawatirkan justru adalah pemahaman dan edukasi yang memang perlu kita lakukan baik kepada industri maupun kepada masyarakat, termasuk pemahaman peraturan atau undang-undang itu sendiri di dalam regulator, karena di dalam regulator juga kepalanya banyak. Sehingga kita perlu memiliki visi yang sama bagaimana memahami undang-undang ini secara utuh berikut dengan nanti aturan pelaksanaannya dalam bentuk Perpres. Dan kami dari OJK juga telah melakukan sosialisasi atau memberikan edukasi kepada masyarakat baik melalui pertemuan atau kemudian kita melalui media sosial yang dimiliki oleh otoritas atau melalui berbagai kegiatan yang dilakukan oleh OJK, sehingga mudah-mudahan edukasi dan pemahaman masyarakat semakin meningkat sehingga paham bahwasanya data pribadinya adalah data yang sangat berharga. Mungkin itu presentasi singkat dari saya. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak Dino buat summary tadi, dan saya mau memfokuskan on the issue at hand. I think semuanya sama, yaitu dalam implementasi dari regulasi itu tersebut. Di dalam opening kita udah establish bahwa kita perlu, kita memiliki, kemudian setup kedua adalah implementasinya seperti apa. Yang ketiga sebenarnya adalah pemahaman yang menyeluruh, ya, mungkin bukan consumer aja yang harus tahu, tetapi regulator harus tahu, law enforcement juga harus tahu, juga di industrinya juga harus tahu. Terima kasih Pak Dino. Mungkin saya minta waktunya Pak Joshua untuk memberikan presentasinya. Terima kasih.
I think we can start our discussion with what we may agree. Next slide, please. We may agree that ICT is vital to develop financial industries. Ruben already mentioned some of the very powerful emerging technologies that can be used, and it's already deployed by financial institutions. And we may agree that government should facilitate the implementation of ICT in various sectors, including in financial industries. And it is more common for us to see that policy makers deploy, for example, sandbox policy to ensure that the implementation of technology is useful and also provide significant advantages, not only for the players, but also for the users. And government should also protect the interests of the people. By the meaning of the people is not only the individuals, but also the corporations as parts of the Indonesian subjects. And of course, government should also develop a conducive environment for the growth of digital economy. And in that particular aspect, I think personal data protection is a pillar that upholds a trusted digital environment. Next slide, please. Now, we have a new law that enacted several weeks ago, and we have to consider that developing a conducive legal environment for personal data protection regime requires not only reformation of laws and regulations. Of course, the previous speaker already pointed out that we can trace back 5 to 7 years ago when we talk about how Indonesia tried to discuss the PDP bill. And even though we have now the law, there are some other regulations that should be harmonized, not only the government regulation, but also the ministerial regulation, and among the regulations should be harmonized in order to make the sectors already align one with the other. But I think it is more important when we talk about the practice, because reformation is one thing, but changing the practice to go to another direction is it could take a longer process. And of course, after the enactment of the act, we still need strong political will to make the new system established well in Indonesia. And there should be consistent law enforcement. And of course, we need also fair incentives for those, the players who comply with the law. And we also we need to understand that Indonesia is one of the states that have laws on personal data protection. And there are other instruments, regional instruments, multilateral instruments that established that we should consider. So a PDP system that is compatible with regional instruments and international standards benefits Indonesia in trade, in cooperation, and of course in the protection of data subjects in the context of cross-border data flow. And as we are going to the new system, there is no better ways or models or values will be widely accepted without challenges and opposition. Because when we discuss about our existing situation, it's sectoral based, and sometimes it's overlaps between one laws and the other, and they create uncertainties. Some of the entities will use this as advantage because they have flexibilities, because the laws are not well uniform, and by having this condition and then change into another direction that is more regulated or more uniform, it will need strong leadership. And less than 2 months, as we know, that there's a case that's submitted to Constitutional Court that challenge the Article 2 of the PDP Act. Next slide. And when we talk about Indonesia PDP system, national law is only one aspect that influence regarding the model, the direction that we have to take. Standard international, of course, like ISO 27000 and its families, it's another aspect that we have to take into consideration. Regional and multilateral instruments, economy and business and politics, society changing in culture and social values also very important in directing to the direction that we expected. And practices, as we know that there will be change in practices, not only for the government institutions, but also many aspects of the stakeholders. Next. Now, the dynamics that Indonesia have to take into consideration. There are some regional instruments. European region has at least 2 instruments, GDPR and Convention 108. APEC also has its instrument. ASEAN in 2016 established ASEAN Framework on PDP. And, you know, for example, ASEAN and also the authority from EU, they try to bridge the gap between the 2 instruments. They have different principles, they have different provisions, but they to somehow try to make their model contractual clause and standard contractual clause could be compatible, so that, let's say, data controllers from Indonesia could have flexibilities not only among the ASEAN states, but also from the ASEAN states to European countries. Next. Now, we have very significant progress milestones over the last 10 years. Let's say from the Government Regulation 71, 2019, from that to now, we know that there are more uniform legal basis that data controllers can use to process the data. There are also more systematic principles regarding on how they may process the personal data. And the Act of 27, 2002 give the weight that the right to personal data protection is part of constitutional right. It means that it is not only the private sectors who are responsible to process the data based on the legal basis, principles, obligations, but also the public institution, because it is the mandate from not the law, but also from the Constitution for the 2 sides to have to process the data according to the law. And of course, we have to wait the government regulation and data protection. And I would think that this system, we are trying to achieve the adequate level system of personal data protection. Next slide. What I mean by adequate is that it could provide protection for Indonesian subjects, and it could bring constitutional protection for Indonesian subjects, but it's not the only one. But there are other aspects that have to be put into the system that is facilitate the implementation of technology compatible with other regional or multilateral instruments, and allows cross-border data flows that provide equal protection. Next slide. This is the scope of the PDP Act that I would not like to discuss with you. That's the legal officers or lawyers have to deal with. Next slide. But what we can have now is that I think to prepare ourselves for the next 2 years is that we need to know the law. Of course, there are some uncertainties regarding how to implement it, but we can use the 2 years grace period to change and adjust our practice. The second, we should also consider our design. What I mean by design is not only the electronic system, but also design in our process business. We also have to consider the rules, the terms and conditions, privacy notice, and the practice on how we process our data. We should consider that, whether it will comply with the law, and assess the need to have data protection officer. And I think most of the financial institutions should have a data protection officer. And if any case that are not you find it's difficult to have understanding regarding the law, we should consult it with the relevant authorities. Thank you.
Terima kasih Pak Joshua. I think that it's a very important to note that the government of Indonesia is progressively looking at developing this regulation, and there is this 2 years grace period that allows for participants to actually adjust to the new situation. Perhaps next, let me invite is it Pak Rubin or Pak Firly to present. Go ahead, Pak Firly.
All right. Thanks, Pak Jack. So I think I cover some of the presentation, some of the material in the presentation. So can I just skip to the next slide? Yeah. Do I need to introduce myself? Yeah. Okay. My name is Firly Ganinduto. I'm representing Avtech here. So this is answering why I'm wearing T-shirt here now, even though that I got my batik suit, packing in, but they didn't allow me to wear batik, so I just apologize to fellow speakers also. It's not that I'm rude or anything. So, and then I also in AFPI, and I'm also the vice chairman of ICT in Kadin, Chamber of Commerce. So we are pairing with Pak Joshua in the Kominfo. So we in Kadin we have also Kadin Kominfo, Pak. And then next slide probably. Yeah, this is what I covered earlier, that the fintech is really, the fintech market, the digital financial market is really growing. The growth is like almost 50%. Next slide. And again, this is some of the statistic of the digital landscape. Next slide. And the next slide will this is the problems given that growing market that we have in Indonesia, a lot of data leaks situations here, and I think Indonesia is one of the biggest cases found in data leaks. And then next slide. Yeah, this is an interesting fact that we are ranked 15th with 130 million data leaks, surprisingly. So that's the I want to show the urgency of that the PDP law, right? And then next slide is more on the statistic of the problems, the cyber threats in Indonesia, quite big number, right? And then out of the interesting number is the last one, which is only 32% that has security system installed in the device. So 32%. So this is just to show you how security become issue in the terms of that we need to give a literacy that we don't wait until our data leaks because we don't know if somebody copying our data at the moment now. So better get ready. It's like putting the security in your building, right? You don't rely on the police sitting in the police station there, right? So this is I like to to give the analogy. And then the next, Pak Joshua mentioned about the PDP bill that has been issued, numbered and all. And then the next thing is some of the countries that has similar regulations on the PDP, Singapore obviously, and then some other countries, the European, the GDPR and all. Before Pak Joshua already mentioned. And then the next, I think the can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, this is the next slide. It will be the next. Yeah. So this is some of the items that we picked up from the bill. Why the the regulations actually siding with the industry and supporting the growth of the industry. The first is the sanction. Okay, the sanction is I think it's quite fair because we need to make sure that the sanctions given not for the state revenues, this is something for the for efek jerak, for what's efek jerak? I don't know whatever efek jerak. You know what efek jerak, right? So so it's like the sanction is given for to get people try to realize that this is very important, right? And then the administration, obviously one of the things that, and then the perdata is actually the it's more on the penalty also for the organizations. Next one, okay. This is I think this is my last slide. But what I want to state in my last statements here is that in terms of the regulations, the PDP law is actually creating a new economy. I'll tell you why. Because there is a new professions called DPO, which is Data Protection Officer, what Pak Joshua mentioned. So this position is new. It's like accountant in the company. So everybody, every companies that operating on a data privacy will need to have these positions. By all means, is that this position need to be certified, need to be trained, and all other the industry is growing. So new source of economy is going to grow. So it's actually this PDP bill is creating generating a new industry. You like to say that. So a lot of things will be developed along the line of this PDP. That's why it's very important on how we realize that the law is not slowing us the industry, but in fact it's accelerating and adding new industry. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Firly. Pak Ruben, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So before the slides come up, just two things that speakers has mentioned earlier. In Singapore, we do have data protection officer as well, but for the smaller companies, it's usually double head. So someone is usually the head of HR, head of finance, and then they are also the data protection officer. And you're absolutely right, it does create new industry. So there are a lot of consultants, a lot of this coming on board, and especially with ISO 27000, a lot more consultants are coming on board to help them as well. I'd like to do a quick poll, by a show of hands, how many of you here change your email password every 3 months? Wow, I don't, okay, I'm guilty. How many of you have 12 numbers, alphanumeric with all the funny dots? There you go. How many of you save your password on a notepad? I do. Okay, so these are all the very bad practices. But I think before I want to go into the session, I just want to share that data protection is not just only something on regulation; it's also on ourselves as well. So I myself also have suffered quite a bit when it comes to Trojan, when it comes to malware. And so data protection is not only just my personal details, but also even my digital content, my emails as well. So thank you for having me here today. I'll just run through quickly my deck. I want to share with you about Singapore system as well. Next slide, please. So we do have a commission that's called PDPC. As you can see from the screen, it started on January 2013. And the commission is set out to enforce PDPA. Interestingly, it's under the jurisdiction of IMDA, which is the Infocoms and Media Development Agency in Singapore. And PDPA, what it really does is set the baseline. It's a baseline. So it's really the basic fundament that everyone has to follow. But it does complement existing legislation. So your Banking Act, your Insurance Act. So that, to your point about the impact on the financial sector, there is a lot of harmonization there. Whenever we set something, we try to make sure it's aligned to the existing act as well, to make sure there's alignment. What it does is that I want to call out the fourth bullet point. It governs the collection, the use, the disclosure, and how you take care of personal data. Now, interestingly, PDPA does not, in Singapore, PDPA does not apply to the government. It does not apply to government agencies. So why is it that? Because government agencies use your data for a different purpose. So there's a different use cases. So as a result, the existing PDPA does not apply to government, but our government sector, our agency, is subject to Public Sector Governance Act. So that is another level altogether, which is even stricter. But it allows the government to use those data for internal reasons, to understand its citizens, but it also had a higher level of protection. It is not applicable. So when you say personal data, it is really only on personal data. So it does not protect your corporate data. So for example, so my email is ruben.lim@singaporefintech.org. That email domain is not under PDPA. It's not under, because you are acting in your corporate capacity. So PDPA protects my mobile number. If it's my personal number, it protects my Gmail, Yahoo, those details. So that's really under the Personal Data Act. And as mentioned, the Act covers governance, collection, use, disclosure, and how you protect it. So it's the whole ecosystem, the whole value chain. And we also set up do not call. So what happens is, back then we actually got a lot of scam, a lot of marketing calls, not scam calls, marketing calls. You get a lot of marketing SMS, you get a lot of marketing calls. So we have a do not call registry. If you put your number in there, then what happens that you'll be flagged out, and the system will then block those numbers to make sure you will not get those calls. So I put my number there as well. Next one. So how do we then encourage for PDPA to be adopted? That's where we have a trust mark. So in Singapore, we love trust mark. Everything also got trust mark. So if you go to our supermarket, when you buy your milk, your Coke, you buy all this kind of stuff, we always have a trust mark for healthier living, healthier sign. So similarly for PDPA, we have a trust mark there that you can see on the screen. That mark basically is for corporates, for company. So for SMEs, for micro and SMEs and large companies, if you comply to this, you can apply for this mark, and then you can use this mark to show that you comply to the PDP and you have been supported and endorsed. And so it's actually a voluntary, it's not compulsory, so it's up to you to be part of it. But usually most companies will go for that because you want to show confidence to your consumer. There is an assessment fee and certification fee, so it's not free. There are fees involved, but other than just the fee, what we want to do is that we want to make sure that there's incentive. So one is of course marketing, because you can, especially if you're in a B2C space, you can tell people that you are complying to all this, and if you're ISO 27000 certified, it'll be easier to get this mark as well. And more importantly, we also have incentive. So if you are applying for cyber insurance, then with this mark, it shows that you're certain quality, it shows that you're certain standards, and then as a result, your premiums can be lower. Next one, please. Now, this is interesting when it comes to personal data. So I'm sharing with you something, not so much of protection, but how we use personal data to support open banking. So in Singapore, we don't really have open banking, but this is also on personal data, where we have set up something called SG Fintech, Singapore Financial Data Exchange. How it works is that so in Singapore, we have this thing called SingPass. So it is something that we put all our personal data through this app called SingPass, where it kind of serves as our interaction with the government. So all my national identity, my vaccination, my housing, everything to do with government, I can use SingPass to transact, and all my data is there. And through that, we then sync it up through different financial institutions. So that's why it's called Financial Data Exchange. So it links with the banks, and then it was only announced last week that it's also linked with insurance company. So right now, what you see on the screen, this is actually my own personal, just to show, this is actually my own personal screen, where it shows you my SingPass, it shows you my bank account, my Singapore Stock Exchange, where I have my equity stocks, and also my insurance. So crypto, no, unfortunately. No. So, but this is really one thing that kind of put everything. So the next step, phase 3, so we're on phase 2 now. Phase 3 will be then with fintech companies. So perhaps crypto will be there as well. So this is really something to help us to do financial planning, but it also empowers us to have an overview of data, because data is not just only a protection, but how do you use it for your own good. So next slide, I think that should be, next one should be my last one. So again, I take it outside more just protection. I also want to share about Web3. So I will not go into, I'm mindful of time, I will not go into details, but I just want to share that data is the very reason why Web3 was, so-called Web3 was created. So what happened is that in the past, when you look at Web 1, Web 2, it's really about how people commercialize and make money from your data. So you show that you like pets, you show that you like this, you like that, and then people make money out of it. Then things like Facebook, Instagram, then Amazon, and that's how they really capitalize on that. So on Web3, on using blockchain technology, it's really how that your data become really you empowered and you own it your own. And from there, you can also commercialize it. So that's really kind of like the creation or the genesis of how Web3 started. What we have now is not perfect. I don't think we are in a perfect world when it comes to Web3, but I just thought it's quite apt to show this slide and to tie into the whole data protection. Because on the chain is whether you then take your own ownership of your own data. That should be all. If there are any questions, we're happy to take them later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ruben. I think we have some ways to go in Indonesia in developing our systems, but I think we are on the right track. Just to inform the audience, we have a 11:40 and period because Salat Jumat, Friday prayers, right, for practicing Muslim. I would like to ask the closing question to the two regulators that we have on stage, Pak Dino and Pak Joshua. The question is, what needs to be prepared and considered in implementing Personal Data Protection Act?
Ya, yang perlu kita persiapkan adalah masing-masing seperti kami di OJK, kami akan mempersiapkan industri yang ada di bawah pengawasan OJK seperti apa. Mereka melakukan implementasinya, walaupun selama ini OJK sendiri sudah memiliki beberapa peraturan yang dulu kita nggak bilang melakukan perlindungan data pribadi, tapi kita bicaranya adalah IT security. Jadi dengan adanya IT security. Nah, kemudian kita ada OJK, ada POJK terkait dengan penerapan risk management di banking. Kemudian kita juga ada penggunaan teknologi informasi, dan dalam waktu sekarang ini kita sedang mempersiapkan rancangan surat edaran terkait dengan ketahanan dan keamanan data cyber gitu. Jadi ini sedang dalam proses. Saya sendiri termasuk di dalamnya gitu untuk melakukan pembuatan dari surat edaran ini, dan nantinya ini akan kita sebarluaskan untuk penggunaan di seluruh sektor keuangan. Saya pikir itu concern kami dari OJK yang pasti akan tetap mendukung dengan adanya undang-undang PDP ini, dan kita berharap mudah-mudahan nanti ketentuan lanjutan yang berbentuk Perpres itu bisa segera dikeluarkan sehingga melengkapi apa yang harus kita kita patuhi secara bersama, dan kemudian OJK juga akan melakukan terus sosialisasi pemahaman kepada masyarakat, kepada industri, dan kepada seluruh stakeholder yang terkait dengan sektor keuangan. Saya pikir itu dari saya. Terima kasih.
Pak Dino, Pak Joshua silakan.
I think the government has many tasks. If I can make it into one box, that is to create the conducive environment. So when we talk about the opportunities that Indonesia can get, I mean, regarding the business because of the enactment of the law, it's not only the DPO, but also if we can make a safer or a system that is conducive for personal data protection, we might expect that the industries in data center can grow in Indonesia. We can trust the system in here and the law enforcement. It can grow as well, and it can be has a big impact. And the government should also, again, based on the act, the government should make the government regulation. And I believe there will be some kind of debates between public institutions, because we're trying to make the law into details. And in government regulation, there will be intersections between the existing laws. And the third one is to establish the expected data protection authority. Mr. Philly said it should be independent, but we can disagree. What does it mean by being independent? What is independent under our legal system? It's a huge question, and I believe in the process of establishing the DPA, there will be a cure again, and they will invite a debate. And I think the government should also push the associations to be ready. I mean, because associations could make the existing law more contextualized and could apply in more concrete or in detailed way among their members or their industries. And of course, the last but not least, how to make the people aware on how they have to deal with their personal data. Thank you.
Pak Joshua, terima kasih. That's the end of our breakout session. I would like to invite the audience to give a round of applause to our speakers today. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. And to all the speakers and moderator, please stay here as we would like to take a group photo to commemorate this special event. Pak Jack Sidik, can you please stay on the floor to take a group photo? And Ruben, sorry? Yeah, we're gonna take a group photo. Let me count on 3, 2, 1. Give us a big smile, gentlemen. Okay. One more time, maybe? Yep. All right, give a round of applause to our wonderful speakers and moderator. We thank you again for your participation in today's breakout session. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to inform you that after this, we're going to have a lunch break and a Friday prayer. And after the lunch break, we want to invite you to rejoin to our event, the second day of Indonesia FinTech Summit on the plenary hall. So don't forget to join us at 1 p.m. in the main hall, in the Plumeria Ballroom of Padma Resort Legian. So we'll see you again later at 1 p.m. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a nice day.